r/AskReddit by Reddit and chill. Married men of Reddit. What was that dumb thing you did during your dating phase that you can't believe your wife ended up overlooking? Turned her down when she suggested we go on a date. Read as. I'm super awkward. I was working for Starbucks. She was a regular customer. I was new in town and noticed her a couple times. She was a regular customer and we got to some small talk. Chatting about places to eat. She said there's an amazing taco place down the road. We should go sometime. I misheard her. Thinking she said you should go sometime. I replied with I'll definitely check it out. I handed her a drink and she left very awkwardly. She was back in the next day and, against all odds, I was able to clear up the misunderstanding and I wrote my number on her Starbucks cup. We went to that taco place for our first date and she was right. It was amazing. 3 years married and 2 kids later. Really glad she saw through my awkwardness. I forgot her name once when introducing her to a friend. This was maybe a month into our relationship. I was all like, hey, and by the way, this is my girlfriend. I have ADD. And every now and then my brain pulls a stunt like this. My mom was the same. As kids we'd get called by the name of one of our dogs now and then. I thought it was hilarious. My sister not so much. Edit. I feel like we aren't alone. Thank you for the stories. It does make me feel better about these brain farts. Not my story, but my parents. Some backstory. My dad has a brother who's only a couple years older. Growing up, they'd commonly try to steal food off each other's plates just to be a-holes to each other. This was remedied by plate guarding and defensive maneuvers with utensils if hands got too close. On my parents' first date, my mom reached for something to try off my dad's plate and he instinctively stabbed her hand with his fork, drew blood and everything. He was obviously mortified, glad my mom was crazy enough to keep dating, marry, and procreate with a fork stabber. Will you carry on the tradition? Played Weird Al CDs non-stop for a 6-hour car trip to the beach. She didn't ditch me but haven't been allowed to play Weird Al in her presence for the past 24 years. Got tickets to see him this year on our anniversary and knew better than to ask her to join me, so I took a couple of my kids that appreciate the finer things in life. Best anniversary gift ever. Great show. On my first date with my wife, we got to talking about tattoos. I have a rule that if I have an idea for a tattoo, I sit on it for a while to see if I really would still want it. I mentioned this to her and explain how glad I am that I do this because otherwise I'd be covered in Tool, the band, tattoos or some other dumb shit. She rolled up her sleeve to show me that she had the lyrics to one of their songs tattooed across her arm. Edit. The lyrics are all this pain is an illusion from Parabola. For the record, I don't really hate Tool. I just used to be super into them in high school and have since grown out of them. I still put them on once in a while. Edit 2. My oldest brother unironically has a Creed tattoo on his leg. There's always somebody out there who has it worse than you. Well, you did tell her you liked the band and wanted to tattoo them on your body at some point. That's way better than having to show your Tool lyric tattoo to someone who doesn't even know the band. My husband broke my thumb one night when we were slightly tipsy. Horseplay got too rough and I think, drunk memory, he slammed my hand against something. We both heard the pop and I went to tears. Holy shit. That must have been one hell of an awkward night. It was okay. 1.5 thumbs up. My husband kept calling me by the name of his previous girlfriend on our first date. I finally told him to give her a call because they clearly had unfinished business to talk about. He did and she reminded him why he was happy to have her out of his life. And he never called me by her name again. 40 years later and it seems to have worked out in my favor. Nicely handled. Not the married man but on probably our 3rd or 4th date. My man. Mixed our soups. I got a watermelon gazpacho, a cold soup, and he got a seafood bisque. I'm a sharer so we both tasted and didn't love mine but we loved his. After the tasting, he boldly yet nervously states mine is so great. I got this while pouring our 2 soups into one. It was the worst lukewarm thing I've ever tasted. 5 years later and we've never mixed soups again. Too risky. This would make me believe my date was some sort of psychopath. There's no reason that even two good soups of similar theme should be mixed. It defeats the entire ducking purpose of ordering a specific soup. Accidentally set her hair on fire with a match while lighting a cigarette. Not good. We are still married 29 years later. I don't smoke anymore. Reminds me of the story my grandpa told me. On his first date with my grandma. He wanted to see exactly how flammable hairspray was. She wears a lot, and he held up a match near her hair. She had a bit of hair missing for a while. I would have been out 100%. His dumbass antics have drastically declined though. I didn't really do it, but I thought he would be weirded out anyways. Very first time he stayed at my house, after about 3 hours of my two male roommates trying to make him uncomfortable. We went to bed and he put his contacts in 2 shot glasses of water because he had no case with him. I don't know if that's a dumb thing to do. I've never worn them. Maybe we were drinking and that seemed like a good idea? Anyways. He had never had a pet and was kind of weirded out by my cat standing beside him and meowing at him all night. Is that normal? Is he mad at me or something? Woke up the next day to find out the cat drank all the water from the shot glasses. Contacts included. I had to help him home because he is seriously blind without them. He still wanted to see me again even though the night was weird. And the cat became his best friend. Despite some initial skepticism on both their parts. Edit. I just asked him why we put his contacts in water and he said it was contact solution from one of my roommates who had contacts but no spare case for him to borrow, so we used the shot glasses. Makes so much more sense. And Chuki was fine after drinking the solution. Though we did call the vet. Totally forgot that part. Well, it was 17 years ago. He's seriously blind without them. He wanted to see me again. Nice. I was sitting on the couch as we were playing Wii bowling. She was standing behind the couch, lovingly holding me. I draw back the Wiimote and wham. I whack her in the face with the Wiimote at full strength. Her mom was also in the room. Soon as I saw playing Wii I knew. We both knew. I can tell you for him. We were leaving his new apartment. Keep in mind we've been dating for a short amount of time. We haven't been through a lot of firsts yet. His apartment was on the back of the building, so we had to walk through a small passage to get to the other side in order to leave. Imagine this passage is slightly shadowed but the light shoots through it so it creates this romantic silhouette. As we left his apartment and walked into this passage area, he grabs my hand and pulls me towards himself. I'm thinking, oh, he is going to put my hand around his waist. How romantic. Locks my hand on his butt and loudly farts. It was a very brave move for a new couple. We've been married for 13 years now. My BF does it and then tries to make me wear it as a hat. Wear what as a hat now? We had a couple great dates and things were looking promising. Then I got super busy at work and didn't contact her for about 3.5 weeks without giving her a heads up. She decided to move during this time. After things calmed down at work, I text her again. We worked things long distance and finally got married. She reminds me that I didn't ask her out again for a very long time, every few months. On our second date, I arrived 1h late. When I went to greet her with a little hug, yep. That's how we greet people around here. I accidentally knocked her phone off her hand. It hit the ground and cracked the screen. But I wasn't sure if it was already cracked. I apologized. She said it was okay and that the screen was already like that before. Almost a year later, she confessed that I actually broke her phone that day. She had just gotten it from her mom. All phones she ever had were second hand. Very simple ones, and she couldn't afford a new one at the time. But still she lied and kept using the broken phone so I wouldn't feel bad. My heart sank. We've been married for 2 years now and I've given her a brand new flagship phone every year ever since. Wife here. But about 3 weeks into dating, my husband invited me to a house party at his best friend's place. We were playing beer pong, having fun. The other team is up. They toss the ball. I lean forward to try to block it. My now husband extends his hand out in front of me at the same time, catching the ball but at the same time hitting me in the eye and somehow pulling out 3/4 of my eyelashes. He felt terrible about it and tried to burn off his eyelashes in drunken sympathy. He hates when I bring it up, but I think it is the funniest story. Damn. How long do they take to grow back? Wife here. About 3 weeks into dating. My husband thought it would be romantic to pick me up and spin me around in his driveway. Unfortunately, it was not his most brilliant idea and he tripped and we fell right onto the concrete next to my car. Reader. He landed on top of me. You cushioned his fall. How sweet of you. Insisted that everything in San Francisco was walking distance from everything else. And decided we should walk from Pier 39 to Golden Gate Park. It is walkable. But not third date walkable. Or whatever shoes she happened to be wearing that day walkable. As someone unfamiliar with San Francisco, I googled it. 6.5 miles apart. A 2-hour walk according to Google. And by the looks of it, a shit ton of hills. Google is giving me a warning I've never seen before that walking directions may not reflect real world conditions. And it looks like the elevation changes back and forth a couple hundred feet more than once. San Francisco is notorious for having a city grid overlaid on a really hilly area. It's crazy steep and uphill downhill even if Google Maps is showing a straight line walk along a straight street. We were taking a shower together and she was soaping up while I was under the hot water rinsing off and she slipped and instead of helping her I pulled away. Thinking for some reason that I'd already rinsed off and didn't want to get soapy. Thank God she caught herself on the shower curtain and didn't get hurt. She was not happy. My explanation of my faulty thinking didn't help at all. Either. We laugh about it now but it took some serious smoothing over at the time. Oh yay. It's not like you are in the shower and can't just rinse again. Yep. She drove that point home. We drank a lot on our second date. Ubered home. Next day went back to get his car. And it wasn't there. He was so devastated. He just bought it recently and it was stolen. We filed a police report. Took forever and just generally sucked. We walked to his friend's house nearby. And there was his car. Perfectly unstolen. He drank so much he forgot he moved it before our date. Now, once in a while when we're trying to find our car in the grocery store parking lot or wherever, one of us will say it's stolen. Call the police. My husband did this once too and he didn't even have the excuse of being drunk. He was visiting someone in the hospital and when he went to leave, he couldn't find his truck. He looked around for a while but swore it wasn't where he parked it. He called the police to report it stolen and the police show up. They end up finding his truck on another level of the parking garage. We live in a pretty small town and own a little store. Occasionally an officer will stop by to buy a soda or something and ask my husband if his truck has been stolen lately. That's adorable. I love stories like this where the mistake turns into a running inside joke. She was about to sneeze and she was sitting half on my lap so I kinda thought she was gonna sneeze on me and I DK what I was thinking but I put my hand up to block her sneeze except I had a glass in my hand and I blocked her own hand from covering her sneeze and instead she slammed her face into my glass. Married 6 years now. She still has all her teeth. So she sneezed in the glass? Smashed her face into the side of it lol. I felt so bad. I made myself a burger for dinner before heading over to her place to hang out. Unfortunately I'm not the best cook and left a little too much pink in that burger. While we were at her house I bet her I could fit through the doggy door and crawled right through. Then she immediately closed it behind me and we raced to the front door. She won and she locked it. Now at this exact moment my bowels decided they had enough of that burger from earlier and I felt my stomach cramp. Luckily I held it all in and ran back to the back door with my cheeks clenched and starting knocking desperately in the door. She was laughing at first but when she saw my face go suddenly serious and I said very calmly I need you to open the door. Now please. She unlocked the door and asked if I was okay. I told her to stay downstairs and turn the TV up loud. She agreed but was very confused. So I ran upstairs and then had one of the most violent shits of my whole life. I thought the worst was behind me until I went to wipe. And of course no TP. So she took my instructions really well and when I yelled to her, texted her, and called her I got no answer. After probably like 10 missed calls she finally answered and I asked her to bring me some TP and leave outside the door and try not to breathe on the way upstairs. She was great about it and immediately started making fun of me when I came back downstairs. Now quite a few years later, a couple kids and cat. She's still making fun of me. Man, I was so expecting this story to end with you getting stuck in the doggy door and shitting your pants. I think I would just rather die at that point. Welp, I guess this how I go. Stuck in a doggy door covered in my own filth. I know what my husband would say. Because I still tease him to this day. We had been dating for 2 weeks and were spooning on his futon. Watching a movie. Out of nowhere he says, "I'm really sorry. I can't hold it in anymore." And rips a huge fart. My husband was a very clean, tight-knit, prudish kind of guy. So I couldn't help but let out the biggest laugh while he turned about as red as his beard. Haha, this reminds me of one of my favorite stories my parents told me about their newlywed phase. They had not farted in front of each other a while into their marriage. Little did my mom know the wrath my father had been holding back, as he wanted to be sure she was the one that broke the ice first. One day she was doing the dishes while my dad was sitting down watching some football and my mom let a small squeaker out. The way my mom tells it, she stopped for a second, terrified that he heard nothing. A minute or two goes by, long enough for my mom to feel safe. And then, after she resumed cleaning and knew she dodged a bullet, she heard a soft "I heard that, so you know," from the other room. It's been all dad ever since, but the family knows damn well who started it. I'm not sure why, but that made me giggle. Most of the stuff on here is mildly amusing, but that actually made me giggle. Not me, but my first door neighbor's story. I didn't know their story until one day another friend told me what happened. And she confirmed it. She was at a party and caught him looking at her every now and then. She kinda liked him, so she decided to make the first move. She took a few shots for courage and went in. As time passed by, she continued to drink while talking to him and got pissed drunk. Like not being able to walk drunk. He was a type of guy that didn't drink that much at all and presumed she can drink a lot. But when she stood up from couch after few hours, the alcohol swept her to the ground. So as a gentleman he offered to carry her home. Note that was when we were late teens. No car. No money. So he started piggyback her home. That was like 30-45 minutes walk. Like normal sober walk. He managed to carry her on his back about 500 meters from her home. And stopped to take a break for a moment. His back hurt him AF. So he decided to carry her in his arms. A few steps away. And he notices very unpleasant smell. Since he isn't from our parts and it was rural area. He asked, barely conscious, "Her, what is that ducking stink?" She just mumbled, "I shat my pants." Then proceeded to pass out in his arms. Only coming back to mumble, "Duck, sorry." And passing out again. So what guy does? He brings her home and lies her on floor. Since he was afraid of messing up her bed or couch. And left home. But few moments after he comes back. Wakes her up and asks would she mind if he helped her shower. Since she can't sleep 8 shut up. Mostly because it's not hygienic. Safe. And her whole house and everything would smell. She agreed. And after he bathed her, she asked him to sleep in her bed. In case she needed him. So one time I asked Guy how the duck did he got over that. He said they clicked at the first glance. And he just felt that he needs to take care of her because he took responsibility to bring her home all alright. And if she said no to bathing, he would back off. But then wouldn't be with her. Cause shitting yourself while dead drunk is still understandable. But sleeping whole day like that would be too nasty. He laid beside her until she fell asleep. And then watched TV until she woke up. They were inseparable since then. Since that first date I have never seen them apart. It's been almost 15 years since then. And just recently they got beautiful little daughter. So many stories of relationships that start this way, it's almost as if the poo in their pants becomes fertilizer for their growing love. Gross. Yet beautiful. It wasn't until after we were married that my wife told me that I almost didn't get a second date because I talked too much during the movie. I don't really remember it, but apparently I was leaning over every 30 seconds or so to tell her what I was thinking. Also, Valkyrie with Tom Cruise probably wasn't that great of a date movie, but it all worked out in the end. Eater. Please forgive me my movie talking sins. Everybody. I was a dumb teenager and she's really pretty. I was just quite anxious for things to go well. My husband took me to see The Passion of the Christ on our first date. Jesus Christ. I had just started a job working with her and, unbeknownst to me at the time, her mom and I did not get along. My move was, "What's up with that thick beach? Insert name." She said, "Oh, I'll tell my mom you said hi." I was dead. But hey, here's we are married 16 years, so have your feelings about the mill changed? Please, we need answers. Little late to the party, but here's my story. When we had only been dating a month or so, my then boyfriend went to pick me up, I assume, and accidentally threw my head through the ceiling and gave me a concussion. He's 6 feet 8 inches and just really misjudged the distance. I also had a hard time getting used to his height and very regularly kneed him in the balls for about 2 years while cuddling, so I think we're even. We've been together 6 years now and proud to say we haven't injured each other in about 4. My first GF did that almost every time we cuddled too. But she was a sweetheart, so it was alright. My uncle didn't call his now wife for over a year after they first met and he got her number. He kept the paper she wrote it on and ended up finding it and calling her asking if she still remembered him and was still interested in going on a date. So what you're saying is there's always a chance. I got fairly intoxicated and decided to tie a towel around my shoulders while completely naked and run in front of her on FaceTime screaming, "Look at my dangle." Edit. She has informed me I am mistaken. I was wearing a shirt but no pants or underwear and it was a blanket, not a towel. Yes. But she does remember you. First date with my wife. End of the night I went to kiss her on the cheek being all sweet and shit. She thought I was leaning in for a hug and leaned in too. As she leaned in I turned my head and instead of her cheek I kissed her neck. Turned super red and embarrassed, then goodbye and almost pushed her out of the door at my apartment. I immediately texted her sorry as well and she laughed. 3 years into marriage she apparently didn't care. Better than me. I went in for a kiss and this is where our versions differ. She turned her cheek so I kissed her on the cheek goodnight. Next few dates I got too scared to try again. Eventually I straight up asked her, "If I try again will she turn away?" She stood stunned for a minute and then accused me of turning my cheek when she went for the kiss. In summary, we spent 2 months in each other's friend zone because we thought the other didn't want to kiss. I love that you straight up asked her. This is where miscommunications die. I didn't ask her for her number the first time we hung out, knowing I may never see her again. My brother got it and I later got it from him. Edit. A number of people asked why. So here's why. A friend of mine, a girl who was a social butterfly, had met her at a party and brought her over to my place. I lived there with my brother and a friend. We were watching the movie Goodfellas when they arrived. I had seen the movie a few times before, so I ended up going to sleep before it was over. I had to work early the next day and it was already pushing 1 AM. I found out later that my brother was being a bro, because he did it thinking about me and my wife wasn't really interested in my brother in that regard. How did your brother get her number? He asked her for it. I had gone to bed. I asked for it a few days later. She had an Xbox and staying the night. She woke up to me playing some arcade hockey game and providing commentary of goal 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 goal. Smile goalie. Wife was a devout animal lover and activist. Planned proposal at a fancy Tokyo restaurant that only takes 3 tables a night and has 11 courses, which was filled with all sorts of innovative things so you're never quite sure what's coming next. In between one of the courses the chef brings out a cute little glass bowl for us to play with some squid. The chef informs us these are firefly squid that's local to the bay. My wife is delighted and practically named them. 2 courses later they reappeared as entrees, floating on a glass plate lit up from below and arranged to look like they're swimming. She still said yes but have never let me forget that I took her on literally the worst dining experience she had. And I had paid the most ever for. Soon to be wife here. When we first met, It was during an introduction class or something like that. He kept kissing the teacher's ass and talking way too much and just being kinda of a show off. I wanted to punch him in the face. Come to find out he's in almost all my classes, and for lunch a couple of girls and I decided to go to McDonald's. He invited himself. I was annoyed. 2 months into our relationship he confessed that he saw me and was intrigued and wanted to get to know me, so he did everything to get my attention. He's an extrovert. I'm an introvert. I'm surprised he managed to actually get my attention. We've been together for 10 years, getting married on the 23rd of September. On our first dinner date, my husband ordered a shit ton of food to show me his favorites at an Indian restaurant and forgot his wallet at home. And only discovered doing so when the check had arrived. Cleared me out well over $100 and he was absolutely mortified. But we've been married for near 2 years, so my card got declined on the first lunch date we went on. The bill was less than $20. I was ducking mortified. 15 years married now. I was unemployed and on a waiting list to join the army. I didn't have any money to take her out. But I wanted to. So I sold the graphics card out of my computer. All I did every day was play computer games and work out while I was waiting. So I traded essentially my most prized possession for just a chance at some dates. To buy her a bowl of chili. More specifically, 10 years married, she talked me out of the army. Lol. Ducking, like and subscribe.